What do y'all think of when you hear the term psycho? Maybe a bunch of these hippies riding around in a psychedelic bus? Or the guy who lived in this house? Or maybe this guy? Definitely a psychopath. But I'm going to give you something much cooler to think about. This pattern. It's called the psycho ant. Bruce Haley sent me a picture of this fly and asked if I'd ever tied it, and I told him no, I've never even heard of it. And as far as I can tell, it's not in any of my books, so I did some quick research online. Couldn't find much info out there on it. I did see it for sale at a couple of places, but I couldn't find any tying instructions, so I don't really know where this fly came from. But it's really kind of cool, and it's unique in at least one aspect, and that's that the back of it looks just like a beetle, tied like a beetle carapace, and the front is the same thing but tied backwards so that you end up finishing the fly in the middle. Now, I've never fished this thing, so I really don't know what it's going to look like on the water, but I've got a feeling that it's not going to be a high floater, so I would probably not skip the white indicator on top. And as far as colors go, the few pictures of it I did see out there, they were all tied in black, and I did make a couple of black ones, but I'm also doing it in purple because for whatever reason, purple seems to be a hot color in late summer on the Savage, and I'm heading there this weekend. So my advice, tie this thing in whatever color you want. It's just a big meaty attractor pattern that's going to work in all kinds of waters in terrestrial season. Just have fun with it. I certainly had fun tying it tonight, and I'm hoping to have fun fishing with it this weekend. So there's one in the vise, a psycho ant. Pretty cool looking bug. This is certainly not a small thing. I think I mentioned the only sizes I've seen this for sale in are 6s and 8s on 3X long hooks is what it looks like. And I'm going with a new hook for me. This is a Sprite. And I got these because they're barbless streamer hooks, true barbless. I picked this up in the Catskills. And I want to use some black thread. I want to lay a base all the way down the length of it and then park it back in the middle. And that was a 70 denier thread. And I put the base down on the whole length of it because it may help this foam not spin around. So this is a piece of 2mm foam and just slightly smaller than the gap of the hook. I'm just going to pinch this around, put some tight wraps, and if you didn't have those thread wraps, this would be more likely to be spinning around the hook. So that's why I put that base down. So take it all the way back to where the bend starts, and then fold it over and see if that's going to be long enough. In this case, it is. We'll be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and put some tight wraps to really lock this in. Now grab about 3 or 4 strands of Peacock herl. Let's just catch these in. I went ahead and snipped them off so I don't have to worry about the brittle ends. Watch the point of your hook. You'll really want to watch the point when you're wrapping these because they will snap or break if you're not careful. So go ahead and wrap these up to the middle of the hook. Now let's fold this foam over and make the back half of our fly. I'm just going to pinch it right here and then catch it in. Make it kind of wide. Okay, that's fine. So what we've got right now basically is just a beetle. The back half of a beetle. And I suppose you could cut this off right here and then do the exact same thing but in reverse on the front. But I haven't been doing that. I've just been pinching it and then taking it up right here all the way, pretty much all the way up to the eye. Okay, I think that's going to be fine. Now let's really tighten this up going back. Now let's catch in about 4 more strands of Peacock herl right here. And you know what I should do? I'm going to go ahead and cut this purple short, long enough to finish the fly, but short enough just to kind of get it out of my way so I can wrap this going back here. Now let's do the same thing we did in the back up front. Just take these back and catch them off at the middle of the fly. Now we can fold this back, and I'm going to try to make these about the same length, this front and the back piece here. We'll see. If I don't make it perfect, it will be just fine. So several wraps right here. Okay, I think they're close enough. Let's go ahead and snip this excess right here. Just pretty close, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're gonna squish that down with a few extra thread wraps right here. Okay, I think that looks fine. I don't know why that front half looks wider than the back, but oh well, we can live with that. Next thing we want to catch in is some crystal flash. And I've got 4 strands, I folded it in half, so I'm going to end up with 8 coming off the front and the back. Just catch these in. These don't have to be tight wraps. Loose wraps are perfectly fine right here. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and trim these a little bit. We'll cut them to size here in just a minute, but I think we're fine right there. And the next thing, just some white parapost. This is actually 2 strands, you can kind of tell right there. I'm gonna lay it right on top here. Longer than I need, we'll trim this white parapost and the crystal flash at the same time in just a minute. Okay, let's trim them, about a body length. Might want to trim it a little bit longer and it'll spring back just a little bit. Okay, I think that's fine. Now, I've done these where I tied the legs in before I did that mess up front, up top, or after. I don't think it really matters, but one tip to note, if you want these legs to be sticking straight out perpendicular to the fly, catch them in high, but if you want them to be a little bit forward, pointing forward and back, you might want to just try and catch them in a little bit underneath. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a second. Let's trim this back one right there. So it's kind of low, but they're going forward and back. If I tied them in higher, they would be sticking out more. So let's do the same thing on this side. Now the last thing I'm going to catch in, some black dry fly hackle. And you can oversize this if you want because we are going to trim it on the bottom. So let's catch it in toward the back of this little flat area we've created, but put enough thread wraps till you get up to the front of it. So we're using that big flat area we created for a base to wrap this hackle. Now, if you wanted to, this is probably where I would put a drop of super glue just right there on top of those thread wraps. I haven't been doing that, so we're gonna see when I fish these this weekend if that makes a big difference. You know, the likelihood of me catching so many fish that this wears out before I lose it in a tree is pretty low. So I'm gonna skip the super glue on these I'm tying tonight, and we'll see if it really matters. So I would say about 4 wraps of this hackle right there is going to be fine. Let's catch it off with a couple of wraps. And if you have a big whip finish tool, yeah, now would be a great time to break it out. But if not, just do it by hand. I'm going to have to do it by hand, and I'm going to just try and whip it right in front of that black hackle, but right behind the white parapost. Okay, let's snip this thread, then that excess feather right there, and then take care of our cleanup. And pretty much all of them I've seen have had this black hackle trimmed on the bottom, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, let's see if we have any other cleanup or last minute snips. I'm gonna shorten these legs up a little bit. And I don't think I mentioned, but a lot of these, actually most all of them I saw, had 2 legs on each side, 2 strands of rubber. I thought that was just a little much, so I went with 1. I think this fly is gonna be just fine like this. So that's it, everybody. I appreciate you watching. Take care, and we'll see you next time.